Forrest Gump video project by Jacob Hurst. My name is Daniel Gordon, and I would like to tell you the story of my life, just in case I suddenly have a heart attack and die right here on this bench. Okay, so here we go. Before I was born, my father was the man who helped James Watt create the steam engine. It was back in the year 1774. My father had a revolutionary idea where you could make things move just using the power of steam. But he was just the apprentice of a man named James Watt. This meant whatever my father did, Mr. Watt could take credit for. One day, my father and Mr. Watt were having a picnic lunch of champions, peanut butter and jelly. They were munching on their favorite sandwiches when my father had the idea of adding a separate condenser to the engine to help reduce fuel usage. He told his boss, Mr. Watt, and he thought this was a brilliant idea. So they both worked long hours, and my dad even longer hours, until they finally did it. The steam engine was born. It was an amazing moment in time, except for the fact that Mr. Watt took all the credit for the idea and left my father in the dust. This was so important because it caused huge advances in the industry of the world. The use of trains and steamboats allowed people and goods to be transported from place to place without using a horse. Because of my father's invention of the steam engine, steam power was developed, which also allowed many industries to develop to new heights because they did not have to rely on wind or water power. They could build their industries anywhere. On to the next chapter of my life. My very first job as a young man was with a man named Henry Ford. He had a very great idea that later revolutionized the world. It was to make the first easy to make automobile. I was the test driver. What that meant is I had to take each and every T model for a test run before selling it to check if it was functional. Many were not at first, but I fixed all of the problems and bugs in the vehicle. At the time, I didn't think much of Mr. Ford because he was all about making the cars as fast as possible with his assembly line, and he kept lowering the prices of the cars. And I thought, boy, this old man isn't too smart up there. But before you knew it, he was a very rich man selling millions of cars. I guess he made the automobile accessible and easy for everyone to buy. He is a smarter man than I thought. What I didn't realize at the time was how his Model T Ford was affecting the world. Why, I just think where we would be today if the majority of us couldn't afford to buy a car. It has given us the freedom to come and go as we wish, to work where we want to, because we had a way of getting there now. It gave us the mobility and travel when and where we wanted it. It helped us develop better roads and highways, and by golly, just think of all the job opportunities the auto industry. Because of the automobile, we have fast food, convenience stores, gas stations, auto repair shops, state patrol, and city highway construction. And not to mention my very favorite, the place where I met my sweet wife Gertie, the drive-in movie theater. Oh, excuse me, I've caught myself a bad case of pneumonia last week. But don't worry, I'm not contagious anymore because I have been on antibiotics for over 3 days now. Dang it, that stuff is good medicine. Oh, that reminds me, I should tell you about the story where I almost lost my poor Gertie. We were only married 2 years and living in London at the time because I was going to school there. We were so happy we were celebrating the birth of our firstborn child, a little boy. It was a little late at night, and she was still at St. Mary's Hospital when she developed a terrible fever. She started shivering uncontrollably and was talking really funny, like she was hallucinating. I was told she had blood poisoning and was told she probably wasn't going to make it. I was scared to death. She was sleeping when I went to get some coffee and ran into a man named Alexander Fleming. We ended up having coffee together in the cafeteria. I told him about my poor Gertie, and he said he was a bacteriologist at a hospital and was working on this new medicine called penicillin. No, it was penicillin. He asked if he could try it out on poor Gertie. I asked, and you know what? That penicillin did the trick. After 3 doses, my dear Gertie was back. I thanked the wonderful man and we named my little boy Alexander after the man who cured my wife. I guess she was one of the first patients ever cured by penicillin. Penicillin was the world's first antibiotic. Before penicillin, countless patients died of fatal infections that had no cure. It's truly a life-saving medicine. During the World War II, it saved the lives of and limbs of many, many soldiers. The discovery of penicillin led scientists to discover other life-saving antibiotics and medicines. It has changed the world of medicine as we know it. Just think of how many influential and important people in history could have died an early death if they didn't have antibiotics to save their lives. Here comes the tragic part. It was very difficult for me and my wife. We just had moved to Poland so our kids could grow up knowing their grandma and grandpa. Gertie's parents had lived in Poland their entire lives. 1 year to the day after we moved in 1941, Gertie was taken by the Nazis and was put in a camp because she was Jewish. The camps were called death camps, and they did nothing but starve, torture, and kill anyone who was a Jew. It was known as the Holocaust. It was the most horrific thing I had ever seen, and these eyes have seen a lot. But the amazing part of the story is how I managed to save her. I was a double agent of sorts. I signed up to work at the camp she was kept in, posing as a Nazi. I found her cell right before they were about to torture and kill her, and I saved her and 30 others that were at the camp. We made our escape and fled to America. The Holocaust was undoubtedly the most horrific event in world history. The mass killings of Jews by the Nazis in Germany were the lowest point in human history. Nations came together to help combat the nastiness of the Holocaust. They wanted Germany to pay for the mass genocide they performed. The Jews had suffered an amazing amount during the Holocaust. No one could ever put into words the amount of suffering a Holocaust survivor has endured and what kind of long-term effect that they and their future generations have to experience. The world has learned through the Holocaust never stand by in silent and watch bad things happen around us. The remembering of the Holocaust has affected many of the world's leaders' decisions. After we got to America, we lived in a good, clean life for the next 40-some years. My 3 boys are grown and have moved far away, but I still get to see them every day. Do you know how? That's right, Sonny. It's the internet. Each of my boys takes their turn, and at least one of them Skypes me every night. It's a wonderful invention. The internet is so important because it has revolutionized the computer and communications like nothing in the world before. It is access to information at your fingertips, the ability to share ideas, thoughts, and images with virtually anyone and everyone. It's simply amazing. So kid, just make sure you do something worthwhile in your life that make it memorable, not just a waste of time that you will never get back. Be important.